What's up, people? Welcome back to Motion Cap. We will be watching the recap of the movie. The half of it. Enjoy the video. The movie begins as we are introduced to Ellie Chu, who lives in a small town called Squamish. She lives with her widowed father, Edwin, and does most of his station master and signalman duties. She is a talented student but not much of a people person. Since Edwin doesn't make much money to support the family, Ellie writes homework assignments for other students to earn extra money. In the next scene, Ellie's teacher is seen to be fully aware of the writing assignments Ellie has done for other students. However, she lets it slip, joking that she'd rather not have to read the essays the other students were going to write. She then hands Ellie a Grinnell College application, but Ellie declines, claiming that she must attend the nearby college instead because she has been given a full scholarship there. Later, Ellie unwillingly registers for the winter talent show because seniors are mandatorily required to participate. One day, some schoolboys make fun of Ellie as she is riding her bicycle home. This frustrates her, but she ignores them. A while later, she is approached by a football player named Paul Munsky. Paul, who is aware of her writing skills, wants to hire her to write a love letter for Aster Flores, is the beautiful daughter of the town pastor. She is dating a guy named Trig who is from a rich family and also quite popular in school. It is obvious that Ellie has been captivated by Aster for a long time. Ellie never interacts with her much, although she plays the piano at her father's church services, and longingly looks at her in the classroom. Ellie declines Paul's offer, stating that it would be unethical and inappropriate because love letters are meant to be personal and should come from the heart. However, the next day, she ultimately agrees to the job after being informed that the electricity in her house will be cut off if they don't pay the required minimum. In the meantime, Ellie reads Paul's letter and finds it to be a disaster. He claims it's because she has never been in love, which enrages Ellie. However, she still writes him a letter using a Wim Wenders quote. In her reply, Aster says that she knows that Paul plagiarized the phrase. In response, Ellie writes a reply in which she admits that she often uses other people's words instead of speaking truthfully about how she feels about the world. She also mentions that if she understood what love was, she would quote herself. In her response, Aster is honest about how difficult life can sometimes be for her as well. Despite Aster's belief that she is speaking to Paul, the two become friends over their mutual love of art and literature. On the other hand, Paul wants to text Aster immediately, but Ellie forbids him, saying that if he does, he will just be like everyone else. Meanwhile, their teacher finds a letter on the floor that Aster dropped by accident and confronts Ellie about it. Despite Ellie's assurances that she will stop, she and Aster continue to exchange letters in which they discuss their hopes and fears. In the following scene, Paul takes matters into his own hands and asks Aster out for a date. Aster accepts his invitation, and they finally go on their first date. It doesn't work out well though because Paul is unable to communicate with Aster face-to-face without Ellie's help. Meanwhile, Ellie listens from the outside as Paul struggles to come up with something to say, which makes for an awkward evening. The next day, Ellie advises Paul to give up on Aster because they don't share any common interests. However, Ellie returns to helping Paul after he defends her from some bullies. He learns about literature and art from Ellie so that he might have more natural interactions with Aster in the future. She tries to teach him existentialism and makes him watch Hepburn movies. They even spy on Aster to learn about her likes and dislikes. During this period, Paul and Ellie grow closer and gradually start to talk about their families. Ellie reveals that although her father arrived from China with PhD in engineering, he was rejected because of his accent and was never able to do great things in life. Paul also reveals that he must continue working for the family's sausage company or risk breaking his mother's heart. Though his family is unwilling to try it, he has an idea for a brand new dish he calls taco sausage. He also admits that he has tried contacting food reviewers in larger cities, but he has not received a response. Later, Paul prepares the taco sausage for Ellie and Edwin's dinner. In the next scene, Paul goes on a second date with Aster. Again, Paul is having trouble communicating with Aster as they have nothing in common to talk about. But this time, Ellie starts texting Aster as Paul and explains that he finds it difficult to converse while Aster is around. Paul is unaware of what is happening. However, Aster finds it adorable that Paul seems nervous in her presence. This makes the situation better and things start to go well. To Ellie's surprise, Paul suddenly gets up and tells Aster how much he likes her and that he doesn't want to just be friends. Hearing this all of a sudden, Aster is speechless and unsure of what to say. Meanwhile, Ellie seems to be upset and she leaves the place immediately. But, the next day, Paul informs her that he and Aster kissed. When Ellie wonders about how he knew it was a perfect time, he replies that sometimes a girl will glance at you, and you should take the hint. In the following scene, it's time for Ellie to perform at the winter talent show. But because some of the bullies interfered with her piano, she is unable to play it well. Seeing this, the audience begins laughing. In the meantime, Paul tosses her a guitar and asks her to play her song. Hesitantly, she does so when the crowd likes it. Later on, Paul takes her to a party to celebrate her performance where she gets drunk and eventually throws up. Then, he brings her to his home and puts her to bed, and it seems that he has fallen in love with her. He then discovers letters in Ellie's bag that are written to food critics which are probably about his sausage creations. The next morning, Ellie wakes up in Paul's bedroom and takes the aspirin left by him. As Aster drops by Paul's house to meet him and give him a painting, she is surprised to see Ellie there. Ellie, however, takes control of the situation by saying that she and Paul are only friends and that they were merely studying. She also mentions how deeply in love Paul is with Aster. Being assured, Aster invites Ellie to spend the day with her. Aster initially goes to Ellie's place at the train station. After some time, she leads her to a secret hot spring where they swim and have a private discussion. Nervously, Ellie turns her head away as Aster removes her clothes. Then, still wearing her clothes, she enters the water. Aster admits she overheard Trig telling her father that he was going to propose to her and was unsure if she should accept. While chatting, Ellie tells her that she doesn't believe in God and Aster says she doesn't know what she believes in. But, she adds that after praying for a sign, she received Paul's letter. Meanwhile, Paul and Ellie's father form a connection while making sausages at Ellie's place. After dropping Ellie off, Aster encounters Paul while he's taking out the trash. She asks him if he believes in God, and he replies that he does. Then they kiss, and Paul invites her to watch him play football. In the meantime, Ellie is watching them through her window. For some reason, Ellie decides to apply to Grinnell College at that point. In the following scene, it's the big game day for Paul. Ellie cheers as Paul scores the lone touchdown for their infamously terrible team. He glances up into the crowd to see Aster encouraging him, then turns to see Ellie doing the same. Following the game, Paul tries to kiss Ellie since he has fallen in love with her and thinks she loves him too, but Ellie is horrified and refuses him. To make things even worse, Aster sees both of them. Ellie tries to clarify the situation but Aster walks away angrily. At that moment, Paul realizes that Ellie is, in fact, in love with Aster, not him. Because of his religious upbringing, Paul warns Ellie that it is a sin and that she will be going to hell. Later on, Edwin asks Paul if he and Ellie broke up when he delivers sausage to him. Paul replies that they weren't dating. Edwin tells Paul that lately, Ellie appears depressed. Meanwhile, Paul informs Edwin that he does not see her. Edwin then shares with Paul how Ellie helped him when he was unable to continue after the death of his wife. Afterward, Paul is startled when Edwin asks him whether he has ever loved someone so deeply that he wouldn't change a thing about them. After a few days, everyone is at the church and Trig asks Aster to marry him. Hesitantly, Aster says yes to his proposal. Suddenly, Ellie stands up and says no. Paul then stands up and declares that pretending is not a part of love and that no one should have to fake it since he has come to see how difficult it is to pretend your entire life. Ellie then admits that she has been pretending and informs everyone that love is not gentle or patient but awful, selfish, and bold instead. She says that making an effort and failing is more important than finding your perfect partner. Also, she adds that it's about being able to ruin a good artwork to make it a great one. Hearing this, Aster realizes that it was Ellie with whom she has been talking all along. Angrily, she slaps Paul and leaves. In the next scene, Ellie is encouraged by Edwin to attend Grinnell because he wants her to avoid becoming like him. Ellie ultimately decides to go to Grinnell, and just before leaving, she visits Aster to offer her apology. Aster says that she is applying to art school as well. She also acknowledges that she had known it was Ellie all along in her heart, and she wished things were different. Aster concedes that she is uncertain about the entire scenario and that perhaps in a few years, she will be sure. Then, Ellie kisses Aster and promises to see her in a few years. As Ellie is ready to leave for Grinnell, Paul assures her that Edwin will be taken care of and mentions the positive reviews his sausages have received. Paul bids her farewell with a mournful expression, and Ellie makes fun of him for crying. As Ellie rides the train, Paul begins running alongside the train while Ellie is on it, and she laughs at his foolishness. The movie ends with her observing the other passengers and looking forward to the future. That was it for today, guys. The end.